Greetings, Wargamers. We're your hosts, Trevor,
Jay,
Josh,
and this is
Chain Attack.
Chain Attack is sponsored by Discount Games Incorporated. Discount Games Incorporated specializes in customer service, low prices, and prompt shipping. You can find our web store at www.discountgamesinc.com.
Welcome to Chain Attack. I'm your host, Trevor, and I've just been serenaded by a foghorn.
I have no idea what that means, but Josh evidently thinks it's funny.
We should have recorded him. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I'm Jay,
We made a great
and
intro.
I live in hope that someday my cat will return to Peanut in its litter box.
Oh, brutal. And I'm Josh, and I am somewhat shocked that we didn't have any behind the paywall political discussion. So I want to apologize to fans and subscribers who normally enjoy that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, hopefully soon. We just got wrapped up in other topics, I guess.
Agreed.
So are you already like going back and forth to Boise?
Kind of. Like most of this week I have spent in northern Idaho because the Lewis and Clark Valley Chamber of Commerce puts on they call it the Northern Idaho Legislative Tour, and it's kind of a tradition, it sounds like, because part of what happens up there is that the various caucuses meet at least one of the evenings, and it's where, like, if you're going to run for leadership race, you would declare, and so most of the people come to it so they can find out exactly who's running for what. And so, and you know, ostensibly the community up there does it to kind of show off their community a little bit, right? So it was.
I'm assuming they do it kind of to be like, hey, we are still part of your state. Please don't forget us.
I'm sure there is a little bit of a degree of that, you know, but I mean, it was like, and I think this is just part of a politician's life from what I'm gathering, right? But there was like, we toured a paper mill up there, you know, we toured lumber mill, we just toured all kinds of facilities up there, some of their local school facilities, and I mean, it was for me, it was interesting. It was I was glad I went, but yeah, it was. So in that way, it has begun, Jay, to answer. That was really my long way of answering your question.
So are you part of any caucus other than the Republican caucus?
No. I mean, those were the caucuses that met. You know, like I met with the House Republican caucus, and of course the Senate Republican caucus met, and so did both the Democrat House and Senate caucuses.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were like, you know, the federal House of Representatives. They'll have like, you know, the Common Sense caucus, or the people who like toast on Tuesdays caucus. Or
yes, I believe those will exist.
Okay.
I have, other than an Eastern Idaho legislative one, I have not been invited to the Toast Tuesdays caucus. Jay,
you have not yet signed up for the Rhino caucus.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. We're not behind a paywall here. What's going on?
Well, that's why this is just a very mild joke. That's all. You did not have to comment on, other than to be indignant at the very thought that you would belong to such a caucus.
How dare you? Yes.
News and announcements. the Astra Militarum box set is for sale. The Battle Forces should be for sale after Thanksgiving, I believe. And then also Asmodee announced their December release schedule finally, which included the 3 Marvel Crisis Protocol items that we've seen previewed so far. I don't think we have seen anything else previewed, although we can. So we were going to do this as a short clip in another episode, but I'm going to, I guess, real quick throw it in here.
Jay's calling an audible.
Doing an audible. So did either of you watch much on the media that Atomic Mass Games has done so far on Star Wars Shatterpoint?
No, only the preview.
Yeah.
Only the announcement is all I've seen. I'll be fair. I've seen a couple of images on their feed.
Sure.
Basically, that's about it. At post the announcement.
Sure. So real quick, let's give some reactions to it. What I guess from the little bits that you guys have seen so far, what are your reactions?
So for me, it was. We have to go back and give this a little bit of preface.
Okay.
You were aware that they were going to announce something the next day. You
whoa, that did not happen.
Allegedly, and you let me know, and I said I can't imagine.
Also, that did not happen.
Allegedly, and I said I can't think of a setting, or I can't think of a game that I would be interested in.
Okay. And what would you say was the cause of your disinterest?
The size.
Vader, Luke overload. That is the disinterest. Like I'm just like Star Wars Legion, for example, just zero interest. I've had enough of the original trilogy. I don't need. I don't care anymore. Like they've basically
run that family tree deep into the ground.
Yeah, I need some time off from my relationship with Darth Vader.
And as a side note, I talked a little bit about Andor in the
behind the paywall.
And one of the refreshing things about the TV series is that it just shows like how interesting the setting could be without
all the Jedis and junk.
I mean, I love the Jedis and I love the Sith, but without it being like the same Skywalker family or like the promise of Episode 8 that was crushed by Episode 9.
Yeah. It was all of that, and I guess my gut reaction was that that's what it was going to be. When the reveal happened, I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was Clone Wars era, and not Clone Wars the movie, but Clone Wars the animated series, which I'm a pretty big fan of.
And the style of the miniatures is in the style of the animated series.
Yeah. I thought those were all great choices. The animated series has varying degrees of quality and interesting things, but overall, like the characters are quite interesting. It does a very good job of pulling you in over the long haul. There's some episodes I could, leave on the
well, don't the seasons sort of steadily get better? I mean, I'm on like season 3 with my 9-year-old, and we're not making great progress, but
yeah, it'll finally start getting watchable soon.
I'm going to disagree slightly. I would say that there are episodes in every season that are good, and there are episodes in every season that are bad. The ratio gets better.
Okay. I like
that. The ratio of good to bad gets better the longer the season goes. And additionally, some of the characters you start to you start to like more and get more involved with and care more about, to the point where some of the episodes are more interesting, because the characters are starting to become more developed. But yeah, I would say there's some bad episodes in every series, or every season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there are some good ones in every season, but the ratio gets better later seasons. And certainly by the last couple of seasons, there's a lot of really good episodes and a lot of really good storylines going on. So anyway, I thought, how could they possibly have that many characters that I care about at all? Just kind of forgetting about the Clone Wars, because honestly, it doesn't get a lot of lip service outside of its own little sphere. You know what I mean? So this was a pleasant surprise. The truth is, I still don't think I'll play it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a card game.
I will gut you.
I mean,
help me understand, because I've paid the least attention to it probably even since the announcement. But how different do you feel like it is going to be, Jay, from Marvel Crisis Protocol? Because when I kind of saw the initial announcement, I'm like, so is this kind of Marvel Crisis Protocol but with Star Wars stuff? And so
I think it's going to be fairly significantly different.
Okay.
They are still small skirmish size games. I think some of this is conjecture, because we don't know a ton yet. But for example, they've said that one of the key aspects of the game is going to be playing on like kind of multiple levels, and that there will be falling damage.
Oh.
And there's no falling damage in
Marvel Crisis
Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
It also bills itself as a skirmish squad size game, and if you look at the preview video, you'll see like Count Dooku with 2 droids next to him, or
it seems like it's
almost small clusters.
War Machine-esque in that there's almost a leader and a squad.
Right.
Whereas, I don't know, how critical it is to protect your leader, but I'm assuming it's going to be, there are characters, fairly important characters in the setting, so I'm assuming it's going to be fairly important to protect them, or maybe even impossible to kill them. You have to drive them off.
Yeah, so I'm kind of assuming that you will activate a squad altogether. I don't know. I don't have anything to
back that feeling
up. But yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, I guess there's the 2 most common. I guess this isn't totally fair. 2 common responses on the internet were, one, is this just going to be Star Wars Marvel Crisis Protocol?
Right. Yeah.
And generally it was, grumpy Legion or X-Wing fans who are like, disparaging it, saying, "Oh, this is just going to be, Marvel Crisis Protocol and Star Wars." The other one was Legion fans freaking out, like, "Oh, this means that our game is going to be
support
an advanced IP, support ends, etc." Right? So
guess what? The rest of us don't care.
And that's true too. But
do you have a sense, Jay?
Legion does make enough money that it's going to keep being supported.
It'll keep going. Do you have
even though your fans are big jerkholes?
Dang it. Do you have a sense, Jay, that so one of the things that Marvel Crisis Protocol does is it's not factions. Like, how would you describe the way they handle? Like, I can't remember what it's called. Sorry. That's why I'm sounding stupider than normal. But like
affiliations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Where it's like you put certain characters together, they get benefits or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I think it's possible that they're going to that the game is going to feature different eras.
Oh,
I guess we'll see. But this is where it's starting out. So I don't know. The game is, we're going to see the first gameplay previews at Adepticon, and they'll have stuff there being played, and then it is going to be available for purchase in quote unquote summer of 2023.
I'll be honest, the biggest the biggest barrier for me playing this game is assembly and painting.
Sure.
Like by a very large margin. Like if I had somebody lined up who basically is like, I will purchase them, assemble them, paint them, and bill you.
Nathan Pearson would likely do that for you, Trevor.
I don't know that name.
I mean, I'm assuming like the quality and the style of the minis will be again similar to my Marvel Crisis Protocol minis, right?
Should I know that name? Are we too early in the morning?
Well, yes, but
he was in our community
of
War Machine and moved away.
Okay.
But he's not very far away.
Yeah, he moved to Utah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I apologize, Nathan. It's too early in the morning for this. I mean,
correct.
Maybe that's too much of a barrier of entry too. But okay, that is fair. Like if basically I send him a monthly check and minis showed up at my door painted and assembled, I would probably play.
Man, I would subscribe to that service.
Right? I'm like the worst hobbyist. Like, which is ridiculous because as a kid I loved to assemble models. I even painted them.
It is kind of funny to me. Like I have a friend who he's the guy who made the two acrylic Gameopolis logo signs for the store, and he's big and he has like laser cutters and 3D printers and stuff like that. He's like, oh, you should try out 3D printing and all this stuff. And I'm like, I have enough hobbies. I don't need more hobbies. Like I
love the idea that that's something that you quote unquote try out.
I mean, my understanding of 3D
this is not a little Debbie snack cake, you know,
is that you're constantly trying it out. That's the hobby. Yeah. You're trying it out all the time.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Sorry, and I guess I think they said that we will have like product solicitation details likely around I think January or February. So we'll know what like the initial details on the product releases are fairly soon. So overall, I'm pretty excited for it. I believe that it's one similarity that it's also going to have to Marvel Crisis Protocol is that its intention is going to be more so to be played a little bit more casually rather than having like a big tournament scene or stuff like that. And so
is that supposed to encourage me?
I don't. I'm just stating facts about how it is likely going to be marketed.
I see. Huh. I could probably handle that, I guess.
Play a game for fun? What is this? All right. Well, which of the other topics do you wish to touch on next?
Well, in the AVP universe, Alien comes first.
Okay, well, let's do that.
Oh, brother.
All right, so we're going to have a slightly themed episode today. Star Wars versus Aliens versus Predators. Well, that wasn't actually
Gosh,
planned.
I can't believe we left out Dune. I'm so ashamed.
But we're going to talk about Alien. Over the weekend, Josh and I played a game of the Alien RPG. So we're going to discuss and maybe rate it a little bit.
Were you previously aware of this particular RPG, Trevor?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
I've played a fairly long campaign of it.
Oh, you have?
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Jeez.
During the
pandemic. Lead, yeah, it's funny. I asked that because I guess I'm probably of the hosts, I'm the least aware of RPG, of the industry and what's out. And like, I just for some reason didn't think there was a licensed Aliens RPG out there, right? Like the closest one I'd ever seen is one called Mothership.
So there's been a recent trend in RPGs that has basically been all of the products that you traditionally think of as not being RPGs and not being licensable have all become licensed. So okay. I'm going to give you...
You're telling me like this RPG is maybe not even that old.
Well, it's a couple of years old.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, so let me just give you off the top of my head a list of things that maybe we as gamers would have traditionally thought as unlicensable or not approachable are now available as RPGs. So games like G.I. Joe RPG, Transformers RPG, Terminator RPG, Blade Runner RPG, Rambo RPG. I'm forgetting a bunch of them. Avatar: The Last Airbender RPG.
That
There
one did a
is
fairly big Kickstarter, didn't it?
It did a huge Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So, and I'm forgetting a bunch, honestly. And these have all come out within the last 2 years, 3 years. Just like tons and tons of 80s properties, like the Blade Runner RPG is delivering soon. I'm getting it probably within the next month. Like there's just tons of these that if you would have asked me 20 years ago, do you think it would be possible to get an Alien RPG? I would have said, no, there's no way they would license that to you. And so there's just.
And so to what do you attribute this?
I have no clue. Maybe I think honestly, I think it's D&D becoming far more mainstream.
I mean, that was going to be my guess, and that's why I wanted to ask that question.
I mean, it's not WotC that's going out and getting these licenses. It's Free League and trying to think of the other big name. But anyway, these companies are going and they're saying, hey, we would like to license your product and as an RPG. And the stigma that existed 20 years ago doesn't exist anymore. And these guys are saying, hey, yeah, that would be cool. We would love to see our game being played on Twitch.
Like companies basically see it as a viable use of their product, of their IP now, is what you're telling me, right? Like,
yeah, I would say so.
One thing I'll also say about this kind of current wave or trend or whatever is that, at least from what the products that I've seen, the Alien books are noteworthy in their quality level. You can pick it up and look through it and just be kind of astonished at like the how good of a job they've done on the graphic design and
like use of art assets.
Yes.
Like I was super impressed with that, just sitting as a player, and looking at the DM screen, or sorry, the mother screen, right? So for the record, it's 3 years old. It was published in 2019.
So let me give you an example of this, Josh, that might blow your mind. There's a company called Evil Genius Productions.
Okay.
They put out a core rulebook called Everyday Heroes. Okay. And in this setting, or this core game setting, game rules thing, they added splat books that give you settings to play in Everyday Heroes. I'm going to give you the list of them. They are Pacific Rim, Kong Skull Island, Highlander, Escape from New York, The Crow, Universal Soldier, Total Recall, and Rambo.
Okay.
So they took one core rule book
and got the licenses for all that stuff.
Correct, for 8 different properties, major properties. Honestly, landing any one of those properties to me would have been a big deal.
Yeah.
So and I say that, and I actually this one went through Kickstarter as well. I didn't back it because
how are we not doing a Pacific Rim one shot already? My heart.
I didn't back it because it was such a huge purchase. Like, because you had to buy 8 different splat books in addition to the main rule book. Like, it was big buy-in, and I was like, man, I love everything about this, but I just don't know that I can commit to this. So anyway, I didn't actually order any of it, and I'm kind of regretting it now. But anyway. So
well, the art quality of Free League publishing is much stronger, just for the records. Or maybe it's the graphic design that I mean. Yeah, just slightly.
That's probably fair. I mean, when you're trying to put together 8 different splat books,
right.
The art budget is probably huge.
Weirdly different, right?
Yeah. So anyway, Alien RPG. Maybe we should start with Jay then. How are your? I mean, So my question.
Yeah, you've played more of it than us, Jay.
after my one shot, my initial question was, how in the heck do you play this as a long campaign? Because it really feels like it's tailored to one shot.
Well, as I recall from the rules, there are different modes that you can play in. And so you can have a mode that is very well adjusted for a one shot, or there's also a mode where it has a longer storyline that's going on.
Okay.
So
do you know what those differences were?
At one point, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And actually, we did like an intro, I think 2-session thing with it, and then we did a longer version of it. So
I mean, what I'm hearing here today is that your characters did not die every session.
That is correct. Well, I did.
Right there, you've already blown my mind.
Yeah, I did die fairly quickly in the, as I recall, from the first one. But
now, don't get me wrong. I would love to play a campaign where, like, my character dies in session 1, and in session 2, because one of the things that was cool is that, like, have you guys played Alien Isolation, the video game?
No.
I own it.
So you've come as close as you ever will, Jay, is what you're telling us there. Well, the reason I ask is that it's cool because it's like it's not quite so crazy as like it's the second cousin of Ripley, twice removed, is the character, right? But like the character has some sort of like tie-in with the Nostromo, right? And like so it would be interesting to be like your character dies, and then so the next session, you're playing, I don't know, their kid, or you're playing like their neighbor from back on another colony, and I could see that kind of stuff working. Like, I'm okay with character death, I guess, is part of what I'm saying.
I mean, I love me some games that kill characters. Some Paranoia, some Call of Cthulhu. I actually really liked this game we played, and essentially all of our characters died, or at least the equivalent of. So. Yeah, I thought it was important to the setting actually to have some character death, which is why it sort of intrigued me that there's a campaign version of it. I'm sure there's definitely ways to still maintain the intensity and tension of Alien in a longer campaign. So
yeah, I mean, you just have to find that balance between like not everybody's Ripley, right? But
right.
So how many sessions was your campaign, Jay?
I think the first game mode was something like 2 sessions, and the other one I think was like 8 to 10, something like that.
So let's just real quickly describe some of the mechanics. There is 4 attributes. There are 3 derived skills underneath each attribute. To make a skill check, you take your attribute and the associated skill, or just the attribute if you don't have any dice in the skill, and you roll them. It uses d6s. It's looking for 6s as successes. And there is a mechanic called stress. So let's say your basic skill is 4 dice in it, and basic attribute has 4 dice and your skill has 2, you'd roll 6 dice. And then the mechanic of stress is that as you get stressed, and it's a single pool, you add stress dice to the roll. So if you have 1 stress, you would add 1 stress die. The stress dice introduce the opportunity for failure, but they also increase your chance of success, or your chance of getting 6s. So each stress die is an additional d6 in the pool. If you roll a 1 on the stress die, you fail the task regardless of how many successes you get. But the stress die, if it rolls a 6, is also a success. So as you encounter things, you gain stress. You can reduce the stress by resting or managing that stress other ways. But anyway, that's pretty much the core mechanic. And I think the stress mechanic, kind of does a really good job of lending itself to the setting. As the tension goes up and as things get more difficult, you have this greater opportunity for both success and failure. And I thought it was masterful. I thought it was a great
I agree. Yeah, I thought it did a really good job. Real quick, here is on the website for the game. It says the game can be played in 2 distinct modes. Cinematic play is based on pre-made scenarios that emulate the dramatic arc of an alien film. Designed to be played in a single session, this game mode emphasizes high stakes and fast and brutal play. You are not expected to survive.
Honestly,
definitely the mode we played.
Yeah, honestly, I could play a whole campaign of just like different characters every time, playing a new one-shot scenario each time.
You're on a ship this time. You're on a colony this time.
Yeah.
You're on Earth this time. Yeah, agreed.
You're a team investigating the previous team that all died.
That would be amazing, actually. That would be hilarious.
Campaign play is designed for longer, continuous play with the same cast of player characters over many game sessions, letting you explore the alien universe freely, sandbox style. So it was Sung Soo who was running that campaign, and I was a character who, when it initially started out, like I was an ex-Marine and on a ship that my uncle owned. I'm Wayland Yutani owned the ship, and he was trying to like pay it off or whatever. And so then, like, I had a bunch of my characteristics kind of revolved around kind of my uncle, and then the first session he died. And so then,
when you say revolved around, like, were you stronger, like, with your uncle present, kind of thing, or like?
Yeah, I had some personality traits that were like kind of centered around him.
Okay.
And so then I took over the basically the contract of the ship, and we tried to make money.
And everything went great from there.
Yes, correct. So, any other thoughts or comments on this game?
Yeah, I was surprised. It's funny, I shouldn't be, but I'm always surprised at how much fun I have with a role playing game.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good setting too, like, and I agree with you guys. Like, I thought the dice mechanic was really well done, and but like the graphic design mattered. Like, I felt like it was the setting and the mechanic helped set the mood really well, that kind of stuff. So I sent a note to our GM afterwards and just to say thanks, because it was I had more fun than I expected to, even. So
nice. Any final thoughts from you, Trevor?
Yeah, I never bought this game. I was never really interested in it. Alien it's okay. It's something that I enjoy watching, but it was not a game that was really on my radar, just because it's not one that I would run. I was excited to play it, but it's not. I normally don't. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't buy it, because normally the games I buy are the games I want to play. So, but in this case, it's a game that I could see myself playing but never running, and that's I guess maybe I'm more internally honest than I want to admit to myself. So I don't buy games that I know I'm going to never run. So even though the truth is I don't want to run them, I want to play them. So this is one of those games where I would rather play it every time, and I would probably never ever run it. So I was surprised, enjoyed it. I really like the setting as a player. It did feel like and I think this is intentional even from the movies, it feels like a spaceborne Call of Cthulhu, a modern sci-fi Call of Cthulhu. Yeah. So it did that really well, and I was really impressed. And I probably still won't ever buy it. It's just really not something that I would ever run, but I would gladly show up to someone's game on a weekly basis. So
my favorite thing about our game is that our DM informed me. I think he's run this same one shot 4 times, Trevor, maybe 4 or 5 times.
I don't know that he said and I heard, so I don't know.
According to him, I was the most militant. I mean, we were randomly assigned characters, but I happened to be assigned the Union Boss character, and apparently I was the most militant version of that he'd ever seen. So that was delightful.
See, you just need to tell all of your, political opponents that you're a fascist at heart. Oh, sorry, we're not behind the paywall. I forgot.
How dare you?
All right. So next topic that we are going to cover is one that we probably should have covered a long time ago, but
I feel like you semi-pitched it once.
No, we've never discussed it. Okay, we should have. We might have discussed it in passing. So we're going to talk about Prey, the Hulu movie that honestly should have been a big screen movie and would have been one of the biggest blockbusters of the year. So there's my opinion right up front.
Okay, give us more of your opinions.
All right. So Prey is a Predator universe movie set 300 years in the past. I'm being caught a little off guard here. Anyway, it premiered on Hulu, and it is the most interesting thing to me was the fact that it was recorded in English, but they also recorded a Comanche audio track, and I watched it in Comanche.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
With English subtitles. And I would honestly
recommend.
Yeah, I would honestly recommend that to anybody.
Were the lips out of sync?
A little bit. But it wasn't bad. It didn't bother me. I mean, yeah, not really, not that bad. The thing that frustrated me, and I'm going to throw this in there just in case. It didn't frustrate me that bad. There's a scene, and this I will say this is not that spoilery, but there's a scene where they basically interact with some French trappers, and I'm assuming, I haven't actually seen it in English. I'm assuming in the English version the French trappers are speaking in French and you get English subtitles. When you watch the Comanche version, they are speaking in French and you get French subtitles. So you see what they're saying in French as they're saying it in French, which was incredibly frustrating. I'm like, okay, I see it in two forms that I don't understand. Anyway, so this is honestly, I can see some people saying that this is the best Predator movie of all time, that it's better than the original. I
have seen people say that.
Yeah, I am one of those people saying that. This is not a close call. It is way better than the originals.
No, you're wrong. You're way wrong. It is not better than the original, but it is the only worthy successor to the original. It is fantastic. Just great. This movie is amazing. Honestly, what else came out in 2022? Am I going too far to say this was the best movie of 2022?
Jeez. I mean, I don't know. You're the one who's seen Wakanda Forever, so.
Oh, this is way better than Wakanda Forever. I'm just trying to think what else came out in 2022.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm coming up short, honestly. Now, Top Gun Maverick would be an interesting
contender.
A contender, but it wasn't that great. I mean, people love Top Gun Maverick, and I did too. But this was better than that for me. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a 2022 film, and I like this better than that as well. But that's a pretty good film, and I've rewatched that multiple times.
I definitely liked Everything Everywhere more, but yeah, it was. So I don't think that the original Predator movies are very good, but I do think this one is good. So I mean, I guess that's.
I mean, the original that's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Jeez,
it isn't. It's beyond that, though. It is.
That's part of its problem, Josh.
No, that is not part of its problem.
Jeez.
It is the part that Jay doesn't get. The part that he hates is the toxic masculinity, but the part he doesn't get is that it is a critique on toxic masculinity, and he misses that.
No, I hate that. I hate listening to Arnold talk. I don't know. I mean, that's awful of me to say, I guess, but
amazing. Maybe you should watch it with the Comanche track. You should watch the original with subtitles.
There's no Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie, which is part of the reason why it's so wonderful.
I love it.
Anyway,
what makes it so good then? Go ahead.
So
besides the lack of Arnold.
So one of the things that the first movie does that the subsequent movies don't do, and this applies to Alien quite well as well, is that there's a sense of tension, of hopelessness that you get in the first one that sort of doesn't feel the same in the other ones. It doesn't do a good job of conveying that. And this does a great job of conveying that sense of hopelessness. Like there's nothing you can do to stop the predator from killing you. And you're in this tragic fight where there's no chance for you to win. It just does it really well. And honestly, that part of it does better than.
Yeah.
Because while the Predators, I hope this is not spoilery, but the Predator's tools are 300 years in the past as well. So his technology is not as advanced as you see in the modern Predator movies, but his technology is far more advanced than what the Comanche are using, or what the French trappers are using. So you still get that hopelessness, but you get to see a completely different Predator. But you feel like, how are you going to fight a predator with flintlock rifles and bows and arrows and axes? It just feels like a whole nother scale of how do you deal with this disparity of technology against a very superior opponent.
Yeah, and one of the things that I liked a lot about the show was that it felt like, I finished the show, and in general, I would say that I didn't have, well, I guess this isn't true. I had heard that this was a pretty good sequel or addition to it or whatever, right? And so I did have kind of high hopes, but in general, I'll head into these types of things with fairly low expectations, because in general they tend to be pretty bad. And I felt like I finished this, and I had a lot of, I was surprised how good it was. I had a lot of respect for how good of a job that they did, but also it felt like they set up a foundation of something that it's just a really kind of intriguing idea. I'm totally all in on watching Predator movies set in different time periods. And
yeah, it was a completely different take.
Yeah. Like you could do this in a bunch of different settings and time periods, and I'm in.
Yeah, like I wish that more properties honestly would try to take this approach. Like we just get too many cookie cutter, I guess would maybe be the term that I would use. Sequels or prequels or whatever they are. This just really took it from a different perspective, and additionally it took it from a setting that we almost never see, honestly. I mean, when's the last time you could think of a movie set
right
Dances with Wolves?
No, from the Comanche perspective.
Oh,
not the white man's perspective.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, from the Comanche's perspective of an action film like this, it's like it was such a breath of fresh air. Honestly, I was so excited about it. It wasn't, they could have done this. The other one that I would have been super excited for them to do would have been a samurai one.
From that perspective, you're saying?
Yes, from the perspective of the samurai, not Tom Cruise, not the white guy samurai perspective. Give me the samurai perspective. Give me the there's too many
use what's his name, Shang-Chi is the main character, and
like the one that would have drove me nuts is if they would have said, I would have been happy with it, but if they would have been like, okay, we're going to do medieval Europe, Prey. I'd be like, okay, we'll go back, 1,000 years to more white guys.
Robin Hood versus the Predator.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm a white guy, whatever. I like that stuff too, but there's just so many other stories out there that can be told, and they just never touch them. And this was like an eye-opening opportunity to see something from a completely different perspective. I also really, really, really appreciated the character progression that they did. They didn't just say, okay, and this is the mistake that a lot of the other Predator movies make, and honestly, a lot of the other Alien movies make, is it is a slasher film in a sci-fi setting. Mm-hmm. The main character never makes any progression. It is all about the slasher killing all the people. The main character in this movie has an actual story arc and progression that is interesting and great to watch. That is something that is the difference between a bad action movie and a good action movie, is the progression of the main character. Because the bad action movies, they don't have any progression. The good action movies do. And this one has a great progression of the main character.
One other thing that I'll say about it, and this is my own foible, which is also, I guess, why I enjoy the new version more than older ones. But just in general, old action movies and old horror movies don't hold up for me because the picture quality is so bad and the special effects are so bad, and it just doesn't feel it doesn't have any. I guess in both of those genres for me, they're using the visual media to try to evoke certain emotions in me, and the older medias don't do that for me. But I felt like they did a good job with it was a well-made movie technically as well.
I got you.
So, and would you agree with that, Trevor? That this was well made, not.
Yeah. So I'm more tolerant than you are,
right?
For these things, to a pretty big degree, honestly. All I need is engaging story enough to not be shocked or yanked out by the effects. They can have pretty mediocre effects, and as long as the story is keeping me engaged, I will ignore those sorts of things. If the story does not engage me, then all of a sudden I'm paying attention.
That stuff's like way more glaring at that point.
Yeah, I'm like, oh geez, wow, that's awful. So it's hard for me to actually say because I was so engaged in the story that I wasn't paying attention. But I would, as I think about it, I would say yes, this was a really well-made movie. And it does a lot of the things that the original Predator does, in that it doesn't reveal too much. And that also reduces their special effects budget. But it does it in a good way, not in a we're going to keep hiding it from you because we don't want to spend any money.
No, we don't want to say the name of the character for 8 episodes because we don't own the name of the character.
Yeah, not in that way.
I mean, they do eventually say the name Josh. They just, for some inexplicable reason, decide to not to for episode after episode after episode.
It just bothers me that they think it's cute. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
It's not cute.
That. You're correct. Well, both hosts who have watched this give it a go out and watch rating. I think that's safe to say.
Oh yeah, you should definitely go watch this. And I mean, if you don't like subtitles, go watch the English version. But if you're tolerant of subtitles, I would highly encourage you to watch the Comanche version.
Yeah, I watched the English one. I didn't even know about the other one, but
I don't remember where I heard about it. All the Comanche actors recorded their own Comanche lines, and I read about it in an article somewhere, and I was like, I'm gonna watch it that way.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think about Prey, or if you have any thoughts on Star Wars Shatterpoint ruining all Star Wars games forever, or
or your interest in the Aliens RPG versus
yes,
Mother.
yes, all those things.